Good afternoon, folks that are joining our webinar. I am Evan Eakin. I'm the founder and CEO of Elevate Services Group, and I am just going to allow us a few moments here as I see attendees come in. So the approach that I wanted to touch on is a very simple model, and it's perhaps a model that many of you are familiar with in your own businesses. Perhaps you've done it with boards that you've sat on or various other organizations. And it's very simple. It's the start, stop, continue. So you have start, you have what are those items that we're going to stop doing. You have the items that we're going to continue to do. And a fourth area that is perhaps not oftentimes thought of in this model, but it's what are those activities or tasks or initiatives in our technology plans and our businesses that we're going to put on pause. Now, in an uncertain business climate, this is a very particular area, and we'll touch on the pause area in a moment, but this is an important aspect of starting an IT plan. There may have been certain initiatives, there may have been a whole set of plans in Q1 for your business, and all of that changes when you have the situation that we've had with COVID-19, where revenues might be depressed, might be completely gone, and you have expenses piling up. How do we pause some of those initiatives? So I'll talk a little bit more about from an IT planning perspective, what are those items that you should be looking to perhaps put on pause at this moment? What do we want to start? So in uncertain times, when the situation is what the situation is, there's always opportunities as business leaders for how do we start something to create that new beginning. And here's a few suggestions or areas. And of course, each of these is going to apply differently to your respective business. So take this with a little bit of grace that though I've tried to come at it from, really kind of a 10,000 foot view, there's going to be different applications that each of you should take to your business when you're applying this start, stop, continue, pause model. But some suggestions on items that you would want to start at this point in your business in this uncertain time. Everything always starts with a systems inventory. Really, what systems exist? In other words, what applications, what are your users using to get their work done? Email is a very simple, sort of fundamental system that every company has. Video conferencing. Certainly we've probably been hearing in the news how popular video conferencing is these days for our businesses. We want to collect that into what we call a service catalog. Now, a systems inventory or a service catalog identifies all of the systems that you have. And for companies that don't have that, this is the time to create an inventory or a collection, a catalog of those systems and those services, because you're looking at how best to leverage the systems that you have. It could very well be that you're in a particular situation where your business needs to rely on a CRM technology or a finance technology as you're trying to secure finances that perhaps was in the back seat, but now needs to be brought forward into the front seat because you need to leverage that for this time in your business. If you don't have, as a leader in your business, an inventory or a catalog for what are all of the systems that you can make use of, well, you may not be then using something that's right underneath your nose that could help you in this uncertain time. So having that good systems inventory and starting that so you know how to best leverage those systems. Policies and procedures, I really call this the how-tos for your existing systems. A lot of small and medium-sized businesses, they don't have simple procedures. The users of technology really sort of organically may have learned how to use the system or the technology. And so what I encourage businesses in some certain times is to start understanding what are the how-tos for your existing systems. This is going to help your users. It's going to create clarity for them. It's going to remove some anxiety because they're going to have confidence in how their technology should be performing when they hear from their leaders the procedures for how to use those systems and how to use them effectively, especially to come alongside. And this third item, IT initiatives that are aligned to current business objectives. I highlight the word current because as we were looking at Q1, even for Elevate's business, now we're heading into Q2, well, the game has changed. And so those previous business objectives, it's important not to cling to those at all costs, but really look at what are our current business objectives? What are the client retention strategies? How do we support our stakeholders even greater in this time of uncertainty? And aligning IT initiatives to the current business objectives and starting new IT initiatives, and again, providing the how-tos for the team to be effective in using those systems. So that's what you want to be starting right now. Again, it's not the complete list. This is only intended to be a simple model that you can take and start to explore with your organization. The next area is the stop area. Now, this is traditionally where businesses run to in uncertain times. They want to stop everything. And in many cases, that could be appropriate. Again, case by case, just depending on the level of urgency or the level that this certain crisis with COVID-19 has caused for your business. It may be an opportunity to stop a lot of what was going on that wasn't producing value. Some areas in IT that I would encourage really businesses of all shapes and sizes to stop, to use this uncertain time that we're in to stop, is look at your redundant systems. Since you have now a service catalog or that inventory that we mentioned, look across those and try to eliminate systems that have overlapping features. The biggest benefit that's going to have to you most likely is it's going to reduce your expenses. The license costs or the investment that you're making in technologies that might be providing similar, if not same, features. Oftentimes what we find in businesses is there might be 3 or 4 different collaboration platforms. You may be using Slack, you may be using Microsoft Teams or Google Hangouts, and you don't understand until a crisis situation hits your business that you've got one part of your business collaborating in one tool, another part of your business collaborating in another tool. Well, that's going to create confusion, pardon me, and that's going to create expense that businesses in uncertain times don't need to carry. So really look to the system catalog that you have and target various systems that you can turn off that have those overlapping features and move those users or those stakeholders that were relying on those systems that you're sunsetting over to the systems that you're going to continue to nurture and grow going forward. The second area that I would encourage businesses of all shapes and sizes to stop doing during uncertain times is any IT systems or IT processes that aren't aligned to standards and what I call the BPs, which we call the best practices. There are many published standards for how technology should be configured. The hot topic these days in clients that we serve, of course, is the area of information privacy and data security. There are very popular, very sound standards and best practices that all companies should be looking to. And if you have systems and IT processes that are perhaps homegrown or perhaps were inherited from a previous function leader or previous administration, well, those are not going to serve you well in your business if they're continuing to stay homegrown. We want to align towards where the fastest flow of the river is. And those are around our standards and best practices. So it's best to look out for systems that are not aligned to those standards, perhaps that don't require a login, or they're going to create risk in the way that they store data. We want to stop using systems and stop any IT processes that aren't best practices at this moment. The next area is, I'm going to go into the pause area. And going back to what I had said previously, this is an area where in a lot of these models, folks don't often go into, but in uncertain times, it's important that we may want to pause a couple of items. And just a few that you may want to consider would be the IT initiatives that are aligned to previous business objectives. If in your business you have created a new April or a Q2 set of business objectives around revenue retention or expense reduction, you would want to put on pause any IT initiatives that aren't aligned to where you're at in the moment. And oftentimes I see clients cling to initiatives that are perhaps going to have a long-term payoff, but is going to create a lot of distraction for their teams, helping them achieve their current business objectives. So it's best to put those on pause. We can revisit them later when the uncertainty starts to become a little bit more certain, and we can get back to where the team was focused. The other item that we want to pause at this point are any technology refreshes that require large capital outlays. You may have servers or network infrastructure or some physical technology that you invested in years ago, and you had planned in 2020 to refresh that technology. Well, I'm going to suggest that companies pause that. And in fact, I'm going to suggest that companies not even just pause, but maybe even start to move some of those refresh that require the large capital outlays to the stop area. Using the cloud, using software as a service are very effective platforms for businesses to be able to turn these systems on quickly and not draw a lot of cash out of the bank, where those cash resources are probably best going towards lifting up operations or perhaps going to your sales and marketing teams right now. So at a minimum, we're going to want to pause any of those technology refreshes and consider moving those into the stop. Finally, in the continue section, what we want to look at here is technology that is operating and operating well. We want to get maximum leverage from that technology. It kind of goes back to the how-tos that we were talking about starting up. But you want to look at your technology, especially technology that's ideally tied to your operations right now. Those are critical in uncertain times that we create business continuity in our operations. And so we want to get leverage from our technology. If we're turning new things on or we're turning a lot of things off and we don't have that continuity, it's going to distract our teams. And so looking at those technologies that are in place, that are working well, that are secure, we want to get maximum leverage in times like this. And then lastly, we want to look to communicate and train technology capabilities to our stakeholders, to our teams, to our vendors, to our suppliers. That is something that we want to absolutely continue to do. Oftentimes, companies in uncertain times may just make an assumption or presumption that their stakeholders know the capabilities of their current technology. Well, let's not assume that. We want to make sure that we're always communicating and we're always training the capabilities so we can get that maximum leverage from our technology so it can serve us in uncertain times. Through this webinar, you were able to see a couple of tips and tricks to be effective in starting this in your organization. Visit our website, elevateservicesgroup.com. We have executive insights that you can download there. You can follow our tech blog. We have some case studies that are published that can give you some more ideas of what you're going to want to start and stop, pause, possibly, and continue. And of course, call us if you get stuck along the way or you have any questions. We really do love to help business leaders get the greatest return out of their technology investment.